Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
And I'm Greg Grugan in Houston, and this is Texas, the issue is.
Well, the runoff dust has settled, and House Speaker Dade Phelan keeps his seat. He rides to a victory, slim victory, but a victory nonetheless over his rival, David Covey. It will go down as one of the most, if not the most, expensive House races in state history. I talked one-on-one with the new GOP chair for the Texas GOP, Abraham George, about the fight ahead in 2025.
House District 21 is not for sale. Yeah.
The Texas politician with the biggest target on his back, House Speaker Dade Phelan, was victorious in Tuesday's runoff over David Covey.
We accomplished something great here. This fight is not over to save our state.
Angered by the impeachment against him, Attorney General Ken Paxton, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and former President Donald Trump made taking down Phelan their top priority.
Folks outside this district can't vote. I mean, they can endorse, but they can't vote.
I spoke to the new Texas GOP chairman, Abraham George, about the upcoming session.
We're expecting a great conservative session, regardless of if Dade Phelan's going to be the speaker or not. I don't think he will, but he announced he is. So,
do you think he will have the votes to be able to be the next speaker for the next session?
I don't know. Here's the thing. The party have two major things. One is we need to have a speaker chosen from the Republican caucus, not with the Democrats. And the other is we cannot have any Democrat chairs. So we're going to fight for that. Anyone who is willing to commit to that, party will back them and say, stay out of this race because they're doing what the party is asking them to do. But if Dade Phelan or anyone else goes out and find other Democrats and bring them over and say, hey, I got the support now, we're going to go do this. We're just going to say, no, that's not going to work for us.
Let's be clear. Lieutenant Governor doesn't like Dade Phelan. Attorney General Ken Paxton doesn't like Dade Phelan. You supported his opponent, David Covey.
Yes.
With all of these leaders in the same party not supporting who could continue to be speaker, how is anything going to get passed? How do you expect there to be gridlock?
Enough of them signed the contract with Texas. I think it's like 21 or 22 or something. Along with them, with the Freedom Caucus, I think there's plenty of people on our side. I don't think Dade Phelan gets to kill everything we want, especially Dan Patrick on the other chamber. He's going to push for it. It's going to be an interesting one for sure, like you said. Yeah.
Governor Abbott secured the needed number of House votes that he needs to pass through what he calls education savings accounts. Some people say school vouchers. Why is this a priority? Why do you think using public dollars for private education is something that Texans want?
You're bringing competition to the market, which brings quality up. So that's the idea. It's not going against public education, especially in some areas. I live in Collin County. We have some of the best ISDs out there. So it's not, I don't think they're going to lose a lot of kids. I think, like Wiley ISD or something, they're probably going to gain some children coming over from some other ISDs like Dallas or something like that. So I believe it's just opening up. It's not going from public to private. It could be going from one public ISD to another public ISD as well. So it's just empowering parents at this point because it come to that point, mainly because of ISDs were not doing what they're supposed to.
I know when I talked to Governor Abbott about a month ago, he said he believes the best deal was on the table and they may not get that in 2025. And correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you're a supporter of public schools. Where do public schools come in when it comes to extra funding or more funding?
Well, there are areas in public schools that needs more funding directed at like teachers and like school supplies, things like that. But a lot of that is going away from education to bureaucrats and the other areas where it's very bloated. So if ISDs and the school board members can look at all their budget and say, all right, we're going to spend 70% of our funding to educate kids, not to have all these bureaucratic programs out there, they will get a lot better. It's just a simple math. It's a simple business decision they need to make.
All right, for that interview, guys, my word is evolution. Rudy Koski, what's your one word?
Clothespin.
All right, Greg, what about you?
Stephen, my word is Kool-Aid, drinking it and serving it.
All right, the Fox Texas Trio. We'll be back to discuss after this break. The Fox Texas Trio is back. Dade Phelan survives, celebrates in 2024. Now 2025 is a different story. Rudy Koski, you're up to bat first. Will he win his speakership in 25?
Well, Stephen, he did it before, so let's crunch the numbers. The job selected by a simple majority vote by all House members, You know, let's set aside this single party rule stuff for right now. Currently, the Texas House is made up of 86 Republicans, 64 Democrats. So by sheer numbers, the GOP certainly could pick whoever they want. The problem is, of course, Texas Republicans remain fractured. So I think that the first House GOP caucus meeting in January, which is typically done behind closed doors, will be nothing more than a Mississippi River knife fight, right? Pretty bloody, pretty ugly. Speaker Phelan, you know, he's going to have to get down into the mud, build another coalition with some Democrats, and remind House members that the several of the hardliners in his party are still linked to a PAC that is still linked to a Nazi sympathizer. Man, that is a stench that is hard to stand next to. So those who vote with those hardliners may need a clothespin for the nose, which is why that was my word.
Greg, Attorney General Ken Paxton said you will not return if you vote for Dade Phelan for Speaker. I know people are doing the counting right now. Do you think he has a good shot?
Yeah, I believe he will win. No question there will be a barrage of unhinged retribution threats from the likes of Ken Paxton and cronies. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick puts out the word that House bills authored by Phelan allies will be DOA in the Senate. It won't matter because Phelan only needs a dozen Republicans to add to Democrats to keep the gavel. And there were almost that many House allies in plain view at Phelan's victory party in Beaumont. And remember also that Phelan's financial backers didn't pony up millions for the most expensive House race in Texas history just so he could return and be a rank and file member. Phelan will have their absolute support, and so will his allies.
Well said, well said. Hey, Rudy Koski, the talking point that we quickly saw when it was all but certain that Dade Phelan would win re-election was Democrats elected Dade Phelan. Is there any truth to that?
Well, you know, Stephen, crossover voting certainly happened in that primary and a lot of other primaries and the runoff. You know, heck, here in Travis County, several Republicans proudly acknowledging that they got a Democrat ballot back in May and tried to vote out our progressive DA. Didn't work, by the way. Now, public records can show which primary in past elections a person has voted in. So the claim by Team Covey certainly is plausible. Sour grapes, yeah, but plausible. It's no secret that Chairman George, he said it right in that interview, that the Texas GOP leadership will use the Phelan runoff to push for what they want, a close primary. But all that, you know, that is going to do is just put hardliners onto a November ballot, which will push moderates and independents away. It may not flip the House chamber blue, but man, it could make it a darker shade of purple, right, Stephen?
It could be, man. 2025 is going to provide a lot of content for us. I'll put it like that. Greg, Governor Abbott secured the number of votes that he needs to pass some form of what he calls education savings account, school vouchers, whatever you want to call it. The question is, could Dade Phelan say he gets reelected to speakership? Could he let that pass but hold up other legislation? What do you think?
Well, absolutely. You know, that speaker's gavel comes with hefty leverage and may force some kind of détente with Lieutenant Governor depending on the urgency of the legislation. As for school choice, I think Phelan owes Governor Abbott a debt of gratitude for remaining neutral in the punishing primary. And so by supporting vouchers this go-round, he could certainly signal a willingness to align with the governor, potentially against Patrick and his hyper-conservative Senate on other contentious issues. What's more likely, if Phelan remains as speaker, is a heaping helping of acrimony and stalemate in the next session, with lots of legislative hostage-taking and finger-pointing.
Yeah, I think, man, 2025 is just going to be interesting. That legislative session, all eyes will be on Austin, at least for the beginning of the session. Important to note, the Abbott campaign tweeted congrats to Phelan's campaign when he won. That's all the time we have. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels.
And keep the conversation going by reaching out to us on social media.
The focus now turns to November and the issues that will make for a politically hot summer. So we'll see you next week, and let us know what you think the issue is.